Good morning. My name is Larry Burbank. I'm interviewing John Ciambruschini this morning. This is Saturday, the 21st of May. It's a weekend before Memorial Day. It's kind of fitting for this interview. And we're doing the interview at the Community Medical Center in Westminster. So I'd like to welcome you to Westminster. And I thank you very much for taking your time for this interview. And your name is John Ciambruschini, and we've known each other for some time. So are you comfortable this morning?
Yes, very comfortable.
Good. Okay.
And glad to be asked about this interview.
Okay, this is going to be a very unique interview because John's history is almost unheard of in this county. So I've asked John if he would come over here this morning, and he graciously accepted. So John, do you have anything you want to say at this time?
Yes, I do. First of all, I would like to give a thanks to Larry Burbank for asking me to come in and do this interview so that I could outline what my life has been all about. I will start from the end rather than from the beginning, so you have an idea who I am and what I do.
Okay, you were born where?
Born in Tuscany, province of Italy, 1938. So I'm 77 years young.
Oh, good.
To date. I'm married for 52 years to my companion, Olivia. And we have a son and a daughter and 7 grandchildren that keep me quite busy at this time. I came to America November 11, 1958, age 20. To some extent, I have always felt differently from many others who have come to the U.S. for many different reasons. Some for political reasons, some for economical problems, some from ethnic problem at home or in the country where they live. I did not have any of these reasons for come to the U.S. Actually, the idea to come to the U.S. came from a friend of mine. They migrated in 1957. And during 1958, the beginning of 1958, I started thinking about coming to the U.S. Again, it was more an idea than a goal. I didn't have any agenda. It was an idea that came from nowhere. And I thought that I would try. So, being a minor, I had to have the consent of my parents. My father says maybe, my mother says yes. And so I started myself, initiate this process. It really was not difficult, only because having a tailoring background, at that time there were a lot of American industries in the field requesting people that they have sewing and pattern making experience and all that. So my family goes back in 1915, when they started the clothing business. So I had a little bit of background in it. And it happened quite quickly, really. People waited 3 or 4 years, and within less than a year, my work process moved along quite well. And before I know it, fall 58 came, and I was ready to come. Like I said before, I did not have an agenda. I did not have I did not want to live the life of immigrant. My idea was this: I have 2 suitcases. I'm going to the U.S. and I'm going to make it work. I did not want to live the life of eternal immigrant. My idea was to become, in due time, be a citizen to be. And to that extent, I did all my things with that in mind. Fortunately, it worked out well. A lot of the things that I would like to do, it happened. So In terms of my service to the country, even though it does not compare to anything like Larry Burbank did, I must say that 1961, if I remember correctly, when the Cuban crisis took place, I felt that it was time to show
So you wanted to give something to the new country?
yes, that I belonged.
Uh-huh.
And so I enlisted in the Army. I was just about ready to get married. I told Eva that we should wait. I joined the Army and in a reserve active duty. And we were very, very close to be shipped to Florida at the time. Fortunately, some kind of compromise was reached between Russia and U.S. And there was a compromise that seemed to be a workable one. And we didn't go anywhere from Fort Benning. So I served a 6 months active duty, and I served my 5.5 years obligation with a company regiment that was transportation and building in at Curtis Bay, Baltimore. And of course, we had 2 weeks a year of active duty to refresh some memory what the Army was all about. And I served very, I was glad to have done it. I think it was something that it was easy to do, and it's the least I could have done.
Now, when you enlisted, were you a citizen of the United States?
No,
No.
I was not. I felt that I didn't need to be one. I need to be, if I remember correctly, it was 7 years. I was here about 3.5. Like I said, the Cuban crisis kind of put me in a mood to do something for the host country.
Right.
And I gladly did it, and I believe it was the right thing to do, so I didn't have any doubts in my mind about it.
So it felt good.
Yes.
It felt good.
It felt good. I thought it was the right thing to do at the time, and I didn't have any. Olive and I agreed to push back the wedding, and I would join in, and whatever happened, I was part of it, and it was a good decision to make at the time.
I understand that you can recall some of your childhood in Italy during the German occupation, and possibly how the Allied folks came in and did a lot for your country.
I do. I remember that. Even though I was 6 years old, some of what I seen is still fresh in my mind. The town that I lived in at the time, it was right on a highway where the Germans were using it to retreat after the Monte Cassino siege, to retreat north in a safer zone of Italy, sort of. And the Allies tried to make it difficult for the Germans to retire, so they bombed bridges in the area. And as the town was close enough to the bridge, it got hit a couple times. And at that point, there was scary time, and I remember seeing the destruction, of the town, for a good reason. It happened. There were not too many other choices for the American and the British, so they had to try to destroy the bridges that would allow the German to retreat north. They tried to slow down the retreat, and it was understood. And right after the war ended, a cousin of my mother, which was serving the U.S. Navy, visited. And that was the first American that we ever met in uniform.
Oh.
We read about it, we saw him pictures and all, but that was the first and family member. So cousin of my mother, that was U.S. born, and it was served in the U.S. Navy, visiting us after things settled down. I believe it was like late 1945 or very early 1946. So that kind of stuff is still, even after 60 years, is pretty clear to me. Yes.
So the Allied forces treated your country well?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. I think you can say by and large that most people were very, very appreciative to what the Allied did during the war and right after the war. So I think they were well accepted. Yes.
Okay, you still have family in Italy?
I do have family in Italy. I have direct family. Will be only my sister left. I have a niece and nephews that I recently had the pleasure to visit. And I keep in touch with a lot of the friends. We had even school friends that we got all together. Fortunately, we're still here, and we in touch with one another. Yes.
Okay, so your mother gave you approval to come to the U.S., but your father was questionable?
Yes.
Did he, after the fact, agree with your mother?
Yes.
He did.
What he said to me is actually this: I'm not going to stop you, but I'm not going to help you.
Okay.
So, which means that I had to do my own request. I have to fill out my own paper. I have to do whatever travel arrangement, everything else I did. And I understood.
Uh-huh. So when
I assume it was not very easy for a parent.
Sure.
But my mother saw things differently.
Mm-hmm.
She felt that if it was something I wanted to do, she would help me doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So there were two different points of view,
Sure.
about the same thing. But my father appreciated what I'd done in time. He visited. He spent a year with me.
Uh-huh.
So I guess he appreciated what was done over the years.
Absolutely.
But at the time, I understood it was not easy for him to say, to let me go.
Sure. Because it was a strange world.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
The only thing I knew about the U.S. was through films, reading Zane Grey, reading Caldwell, Mike Spillane, and my preferred one was Steinbeck. That's what I knew about U.S. at that time. So it was something new. It was something that I liked to do, and again, it was not really too difficult in the sense that if for some reason I didn't feel comfortable, I didn't do what I could like to do, I could have easily going back. So I had a little bit easier doing it. There's some people, they're forced to come by different circumstances. In my case, it was really not difficult. It was just the idea to come and try to adjust myself to American way of life, thinking, habits, and whatever.
Did the military experience help you to feel more comfortable with our country?
It helped me because I met people from all different parts of the country.
Sure.
Where normally when I was working, I would meet people only from Baltimore and some other Italian immigrants and all. But when I joined the service, we had people from practically many different states up and down the East Coast.
Right.
And I spent only 6 months with them, but I really got a sense what they were coming from, how they were thinking. So it did help, yes. And then, of course, I will go to meeting twice a month for 5.5 years. Even there, we had a mix of people with different backgrounds and all. So yes, and also it helped me learning the language. In the military, there were no people from the same. I was the only non-American in the platoon or in the company.
Uh-huh.
So it forced me to learn as much English as I could.
Good.
To communicate with everybody else in the company. Nobody spoke Italian. Nobody, you know, so that pulled off. So it was a good experience
Good.
overall.
So they accepted you, and you really
Yes,
had a good.
I never felt foreigners.
Good. Yeah.
Never did.
Mm-hmm. Our country is famous for that. Mm-hmm.
I had a good. I was lucky enough through my working life and private life to meet a lot of good people,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I made a lot of good friends, and I really never felt as one would think of an immigrant.
Right.
Because I started off with that I did not want to live a life of immigrant the rest of my life. So I didn't have any ambiguity. I didn't have any two standards, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
My goal was to make the best out of my new life and make it work.
And you've never been sorry.
No.
You know, and your business life was prosperous.
Yes, I think my background helped me tremendously. My family background gave me enough tools, and then I associated myself with the designer school in Milan, pretty well, unfortunately no longer in existence, very well known for fashion design and pattern making, and that helped me to move up from a floor, from a factory floor, to wind up at Joseph Bank in charge of all men's clothing as far as designing and quality. And that was a very good experience because as we manufactured garments pretty much all over the world and bring it back to the chain stores. So there was a pretty interesting working environment and pretty interesting work in itself.
So when the war ended, that was what, 45 in Italy, and your family had an appreciation for America at the end of the war.
Well, actually, during the war, or immediately after the war, not during the war, immediately after the war, my father's cousins from the States, they would send packages for 3 or 4 years where they were allowed to send packages with just about anything that you could use. Clothing, foods, non-perishable foods, a lot of different things. They did it for about 3 or 4 years after the war.
Ah.
And I assume at that time they were very helpful because things were very expensive and some things that were not available.
Sure.
So my father's cousin did send a number of packages that lasted about 3 or 4 years after the war, after 1946. So, and then in 1950, we moved from my hometown to Rome. Things start to gradually improve, and we were pretty much like a middle-class family that we didn't have a lot of financial problem or any problem in our everyday life. My father had a clothing store in Rome with my brother and my sister working in it, so we did well. So, well,
you had somebody. You had some support when you arrived, correct? Somebody sponsored you?
Yes.
You had a sponsor.
What made it easier for me to come, it was the interest that my father's cousin had, even though they never met me. They're not seeing my family for at least 40 years.
40 years.
They had left Italy in the early 1900s.
I see.
And they have not seen my father for a long, long time. When I requested them their assistance, they were very willing. we didn't know each other. So I wrote a letter asking them to, if they would help me, they would sponsor me,
Sure.
or they would find somebody that would, in the industry, in the clothing industry, would sponsor my my application. And they willing did so. That's what made my effort much easier
Sure.
to come. And it shortened the time that normally would have taken to start an application, actually get a visa to travel to the U.S. It was unbelievably fast at that time. It was less than a year. Because of them, the whole process was much easier than it would have taken had not them be helpful. So, of course, we kept in touch after I came. They were part of my family. And they're no longer with us, but they were very helpful as far as I'm concerned. You know, during my application and after I came to the States, I lived with them for a while.
Okay.
Before I started my own life, and they were always very, very helpful in making sure that I had a place to go if anything did not work out the way it's supposed to. So our friendship lasted the last following 30 years.
Sure.
So,
Now, when you applied for citizenship, did you have any difficulty?
no.
No.
No. What helped me, I did attend some night classes, and I really made an effort to learn as much English as I could, or as best as I could, so that, no, I did not have any problem when I went for the screening, and I was interested to know about the country, you know, the history of the country, the life of the country. So the question that they posed me for the interview, they were not difficult to answer.
Not difficult.
No, not at all.
So back in the 40s, your TV was not available for you in Italy to actually see what we had.
No.
So you got your education through reading.
Mostly reading, a lot of the film. I've seen many American film, and like I said before, I did read. My father loved to read. We had books from writers from all over the world at home. And he liked the modern American writers, like Steinbeck was one of his favorites. It became my favorite of the American writers. And so I knew, that's what I knew about the country. I did read some history about it, but not in detail. Primarily it was the film and the written books from different American writer, modern American writer. I was not familiar with the early writers of the U.S.
Do you have any contact with the folks that you served with back in the 60s?
In United States? Well, fortunately, some of the contact that I made after I arrived, yes, I still am in contact with the one that they're fortunately, they were around. My very first American-born friend, not well, but still in contact every week. The first, like I said, American-born that I encountered when I came was not a relative, and we're still friends today.
How about the guys in your military unit? Do you see them at all?
I actually, one was part of my wedding party. We kept in touch. Then when I moved to San Antonio, Texas for almost 3 years, I did lose contact with most of the people from the unit, yes. Only a couple that I occasionally have a chance to talk to, but the rest I do not. I've lost track of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if a young person seeing this video today, what would your advice to them be as far as military service and service to our country?
Well, I know it's past, but I thought perhaps that having mandatory service was not a bad thing.
Okay, okay.
That's my personal opinion.
Sure.
I see that experience, generally speaking, as a plus experience, not a minus.
Yes.
I like to believe that maybe a draft a year, doesn't have to be 2 or 3 years, but I think I would see it as a plus rather than a minus experience.
Yes.
And then, of course, individually, you have to make it would affect people individually, but overall, I honestly believe that it would not be a bad thing to go through. It gives you the opportunity to learn a lot, get in touch with a lot of different people, a lot of different backgrounds, and maybe at the end of this period of time, you can grow with it.
Sure.
You can become a little bit more complete, so to speak. I don't think has to be necessarily so, but I do believe it will be definitely, in my mind, a plus experience rather than a minus one.
Right. They could select something other than a combat tour. They could.
Yeah.
Yes. Something educational.
I believe that
some
there are
service.
many things can be done for different people, appeal to different things. But I believe it to be a plus, like I said, plus experience rather than a minus one.
Yes. Okay.
I felt like I learned a lot about different people from different parts of the country. You know, U.S. is a big country. Some things are generally common and some things are not.
Right.
Because people have a different background, a different upbringing, and the service kind of connect people from different background, different location, and I think to be a good experience.
Kind of like a melting pot.
Sort of, yes, I think so. In my opinion, I see it, like I said before, more of a plus than a minus experience. And I'm sure it would affect people individually, but I speak for my own self that it was definitely something that helped me rather than put doubts in my mind about a lot of different things.
Is there any other thing you'd like to talk about, John? Just
well, in my line of work, I went through from the very, very beginning to where my sort of my industry had kind of disappeared from the United States almost totally, and I was part of it from the beginning when it was very, very strong to the ending where it's almost non-existent, and it kind of worries me in a sense that it would be best if we try to help all different industries, save the one that can be saved, make it better, the one that can be better, rather than just give up on it too fast, too soon.
right.
And I can speak for some experience of it because I've seen my industry from the very beginning to be solid and strong and be everywhere to a situation when it completely disappeared. So I think I got a little bit of experience with that, and I was part of making it grow, and I was part of when kind of died out. I've been almost all over the world, taking my knowledge to different places to make the best product I could make for my company so that we can sell to the American consumer. But the downside of that being that I saw that my industry completely disappear from the U.S., and that's kind of a sad story.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So I would like to think that we look at our industry a little bit closely and try to be maybe more innovative about things, and think of this as be something that's very important to the country, to the individual, to society, and everything else, and not to give up so easy when we feel that maybe it's the only way to do, give it up and give it out. I think we should examine it closely and do the very best we can to save what can be saved.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't give up.
Don't give up too soon. Look for alternative. Look for help. And I think all the parties involved, whether it's the government, state government, other industry, they can work together and help whomever might be needing help, and so that we can all benefit from it. The public in general can benefit from having strong industry in all different sectors. And it's not easy, but I think in many cases it can be done.
I agree. Well, I tell you what, I sure appreciate what you have done for this country, how you came from Italy as a youngster and found your place here in the country, and how you really made a good life here. So I think we have a great country, and we're going to survive.
I share your thinking, and again, I appreciate what I found. I appreciate what I've done, and I think my kids appreciate what we got, and I try to instill in them the value of what things we have, and what we have accomplished, and it looks like they have become good citizens, and they stay as such. So again, I want to thank you, Larry, for bringing me here, and I hope that what I said was some kind of interesting.
Oh, it is, absolutely, because we don't see someone with your background often, and to be able to come from a war-torn country like Italy as a child, work through that experience, get over here and accomplish what you've done is phenomenal. It really is.
It was very rewarding, so I appreciate what I've done, and I appreciated the way I've been received.
Good. Thank you.